Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there's an addition, an in-camera one for N2.
Okay, as amended. Pause. All in favor? Carried. Confirmation of the minutes of April 4th meeting. Are there any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Let's move down to G. One is bylaw 19-014, Lethbridge County, the MD of Willow Creek intermunicipal development plan, and it was a handout, or not a handout, it was in front of your binder. And Larry, take us away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Council. As you can see on page 56 of your agenda package, there is a short report regarding
46.
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say?
56.
56, why did I do that?
Oh, you're just a little ahead of it.
Ahead of myself, yeah. Pardon me. Thank you. So we have before you a short report about the Lethbridge County Municipal District of Willow Creek Intermunicipal Development Plan. We're all provided a copy of the plan in the front of your binders. It's not terribly thick. We did save some trees. No, we didn't. Yes, we did, by double siding most of it. The maps came as individual pages, however. I'll just briefly summarize the report, Mr. Chairman, and we can maybe go from there. The recommendation ultimately simply is that we're looking for first reading of this proposed bylaw so that we can proceed with the public hearing and move the bylaw forward. In March this year, Council provided administration with direction to move forward to draft the plan as you see before you. And we began those discussions actually a little bit before that, right at the beginning of the year with the MD of Willow Creek. And we have had good discussions. We've involved the Old Man River Regional Services Commission a little bit in guiding us through as well. And this draft plan provides a framework for addressing land use in the fringe area that is the common boundary between the municipal district of Willow Creek and Lethbridge County. And it includes policies as essentially all IDP documents do, intermunicipal development plan documents do, referral and dispute resolution processes. I don't think we'll be going there or need that with this particular one. And then lots about land use, you know, agriculture, for example, resource extraction, recreation, industry, energy developments, that sort of thing. Transportation and road networks, of course, play an important part, as well as the natural environment. On March 25th, we held an open house at the Monarch Community Hall to provide an opportunity from affected landowners. About 19 people showed up at the open house. I know that many or most, if not all, of council members showed up at that open house as well. One landowner requested that one of the sections referring to consideration on resource extraction be expanded to look at effects of cumulative effects of groundwater, fish and wildlife. And to address this concern, an additional policy was included, and I believe that's highlighted in yellow on page 9 of your actual intermunicipal development plan. As well, after that open house in March, the municipal district of Willow Creek received a comment from one of their landowners just requesting a boundary adjustment to leave out 2 farming operations. Notices were sent to the outside and external agencies, everyone that we need to do in referring an IDP document. And the public hearing for this draft IDP is scheduled and potentially will be held on May 16, 2019 at Lethbridge County, whereas the municipal district of Willow Creek indicated they'll have their public hearing a little bit earlier, May 8th, just the way council meetings fall. With respect to alternatives and analysis, you know, there are not a whole lot there really. The proposal complies with policies and is legally required to rectify an encroachment issue. The IDP was completed in-house by county administration. Costs are incurred for the mapping from ORS, but otherwise it's done in-house. And the recommendation ultimately then is that council grant the bylaw first reading today to give it standing, and then again move it forward to the public hearing and greater discussion and kind of dissection of the details of the draft intermunicipal development plan. And that is the report.
So Larry,
Yes.
I didn't quite catch all of that about the two farming operations. What was it, that point? Sorry?
Yes, alternative, none as the proposal complies with the policies and is to legally rectify an encroachment issue. And I must apologize, Mr. Chairman, I don't know what the answer to that question is, but certainly at the, the next meeting dealing with this, we will have that.
Well, I wasn't there, did you say there would be excluded, or? I wasn't quite sure your wording, I guess.
Yeah, and again, I apologize, I don't have complete information on that. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine.
Certainly be prepared to, and ready to provide that info at the next meeting when we address this.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be willing to move first reading of bylaw 19-014, Lethbridge County MDU Willow Creek Intermunicipal Development Plan.
Thank you. Oh. Sorry. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, municipal services. H1, Southern Region Stormwater Drainage Committee, appointment of council members and council members committee. It is 50 to 51.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Southern Regional Drainage Committee has been working on drainage issues across southern Alberta as a region since about late 2013, early 2014. The technical committee got some funding to do a study across southern Alberta and look at drainage issues across the region. Recently, the committee has gained some ground with the expression of interest that was put in for funding for the Horsefly Spillway, the $47 million project, of which the committee is dealing with funding and getting that project off the ground.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Rick, since we have a change of government, will a lot of this change now, because the discussion was going on already with the previous government, and do we need to start? Wait, can you hear me? Okay.
Oh, yeah, very good, Councilor Inkster, please.
So would that change things, possible change, you think?
Potentially. So once I get further into my report, I can discuss some of that stuff that where the committee is heading going forward. The funding that the provincial portion was approved for the project, which is what was required to get it to the second phase of the. So we submitted an expression of interest for the project to the federal government. So the federal government has approved it to proceed to phase 2. So it made the cut at that level to do the extra work. You guys approved funding to do the extra studies a few meetings ago. to get the information that's needed to produce that phase 2 application. The provincial portion has been approved at 33% of the project. So that's already in the queue. I don't think the election is gonna affect that, but it's possible. It may affect what's gonna happen with this committee. So what's the discussion at the committee level has been that the ACRP funding, which is typically either 90-10 for the first 3 million and then 80-20 or 70-30 for dollars beyond that.
Just to add to that too, Rick, you were away at a meeting, so I pinch hitted for you. The actual provincial representative was there. She didn't foresee any issues with the election coming in, and she thought that we had a good opportunity to get the federal piece, so.
Yeah. Okay, so the committee's been in place for several years now, and we haven't had an official member of county council on that committee. I think Cory came to one meeting, maybe a year ago or so, but you weren't officially a member of that committee. There are several of the other municipalities in the region that are represented by elected officials, and they are right now talking about a subcommittee that's going to lobby the provincial government to increase the portion of funding to the ACRP levels versus what the minimum requirement to get in the queue for the federal funding was, which was the 33%. So we're hoping to bring that dollar value of the unfunded portion from 12 million down to 8 or 9 million by doing a little bit of lobbying. At the last meeting, I had said that we have potentially would like to add one of our counselors to that subcommittee and to the committee as an actual member of the committee. And then I'd bring it to council. I spoke with Ann, our CAO, about it, and she was in favor of bringing it forward today. So I'm recommending that council appoint Reed Hickey to that committee based on a few factors. One is he is south of the river, which is the part of the county that will be affected by the drainage works that are done as part of this project. Two, he's got an understanding and history in the region, being part of the Moway Drain Committee, which is again that area that will drain this way. He's got a wealth of knowledge of flooding that's happened in the region over the past several years, and he's been through those as a councillor, and that his experience in lobbying efforts with the provincial government would be beneficial to the committee as well. So that's why I've recommended the way I have today. Any questions?
So, if I heard you, why don't we have these things automated so when the doctor goes on, you know, everything else is automated?
Excuse me, but you're out of line, Counselor. That has nothing to do with the topic we're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, they like to have somebody from the area down there, what's all go with the area and all of that then.
Not all of the municipalities are represented by elected officials. Some of them aren't represented at all. We have, there's two parts of the committee, exactly the same setup as the Moway Drain Committee. There's a steering committee and then there's a technical committee. Both Devin and I are on, the supervisor of tech services and the director of municipal services are on the technical committee. Just with our ability to provide the technical experience to that committee. We're also part of the committee as represented. We're not voting members or anything of that committee. So that's the elected officials. There's members from the SMRID on there. Their board members, they have representation. The MD of Tabor has representation. and several of the other municipalities between here and Medicine Hat are represented by elected officials. And we just don't have one on that committee.
So Rick, is this a result of the drainage master plan that was done 4 years ago?
That's right. Southern Regional Drainage Master Plan. So it's a very high-level document that kind of overlooks the drainage issues in southern Alberta. Lethbridge County is leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else with our stormwater master plan that was approved in 2016, as well as our individual basin plans that we're doing now. So that's, none of the other municipalities, except possibly Medicine Hat, have that level of detail in their planning. So we are ahead of the game, which gives us a good reason to be involved in the committee, because we have the technical experience and the wherewithal to provide good advice, make sound decisions.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We put money forward for the study. That's all we did so far. Is that correct?
So there's 5 or 6 items that have to be produced, technical papers by engineering firms to proceed to phase 2 of the federal funding application. So a certain percentage of all the expressions of interest that were put in late last year were accepted to go forward. We were one of them as part of this project, and now it was just under 100,000. I don't recall the exact number, in the 90,000 something and change, to be split amongst all of the municipalities. So we approved to be part of that cost sharing a few meetings ago. That gives us the ability to put in the next level of application for the federal funding.
So what you're asking right now is just have nominate a person to a councillor to be on the committee, but not for any extra money or anything like that committed to the project.
And just to expand a little bit further, there's been a lot of talk about dealing with drainage in a different manner, and there's been talk of drainage commissions or drainage regulation, and I think this group that's gotten together is a precursor to that next step. So it would be prudent for the county to have somebody there in a political capacity that could make those decisions, or at least be involved in the conversations at this point.
Awesome.
Then I would like to move that, and I'm going to change it a little bit, move that the county council appoint a councillor to act as a member of the Southern Regional Stormwater Drainage Committee, and that the selected member be Reeve Lauren Hickey or his designated. Because I think that, you got to have another person in place here, that if for some reason our Reeve can't be there, we should have somebody else there.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, and that other person, I would being on the south side, I would like to nominate Councillor Tori Campbell for that.
Sorry? Is that okay with you? Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Welcome to the team, Chairman.
Yeah, thanks. We're going to move on to community services. Development permit 2019-029. Java auto sale. Is that right, sir? Yeah. Pages 52 to 63.
Yes, go right ahead. Oh, just do your thing.
So on February 25th, 2019, Lethbridge County received an application for an intensification of use of an existing used automotive dealership in Fairview. Previously, council approved development permit number 2017-042 for the use of automotive sales, on the property which was issued in the name of the applicant in business at the time. Since that time, a different use auto dealership has moved onto the property. Now, with development permits, the use carries with the land. So even though it's a different person on the property, the previous one that was issued is still valid. However, the new business that's on the property requires a development permit to be issued in their name as per AMVIC regulations. And since we don't have a business licensing program, that's why they're having to reapply. So the new business, in addition to requesting this development permit be issued in their name, is requesting that a waiver be granted of the minimum requirement for parking spaces for customers in order that they may increase the number of vehicles on the property that they have for sale. According to the land use bylaw, a business of the size of this building is required to have a minimum of 7 customer parking spaces, and as I said, it's determined by the size of the building. So they're asking for the waiver to be reduced to go from 7 spots for their customers to 2 spaces, because the business says that they never have more than one customer at any one time, so why do they need 7 parking spaces for customers? So they would be asking if they could have up to 28 cars displayed on the property for sale at any given time. And we put together a site plan that was included with the application here to show how that would work on the property. So the application was deemed to be complete on March 11th and was circulated at that time. It was circulated internally to county departments, to Alberta Transportation, and to the City of Lethbridge, as well as letters were sent out to the adjacent landowners in Fairview. No comments were received from any of the adjacent landowners. The City of Lethbridge and internal county departments had no concerns. Alberta Transportation would require the applicant to obtain a roadside development permit if this application is approved. The parcel is within the Hamlet Direct Control District, and the use of commercial uses considered suitable by council is listed as a permitted use. So County Council is the development authority for all development permit applications made in the Hamlet Direct Control District. In terms of your options here, you certainly have the option to refuse the development permit. You can refuse the waiver request. You could amend the waiver request. If you were to refuse this application, on the previous development permit that was already issued by council would still remain valid on the property, just issued in somebody else's name. There are no foreseeable financial implications for this because no new construction is being proposed for the business. And then our recommendation is to approve the development permit as drafted, allowing for the waiver. But as I said, council has the discretion to amend that should they wish to, or refuse the application outright. Does that have any questions?
Okay, thank you. Any questions? So I have 2 actually.
Sure.
I know that we did give a permit quite a while ago then. All those cars in the front row, like on page 6, you could just drive right on Highway 512. Like there's no approach there, it's just all one approach. The transportation has no issue with that. Or
So that, yes, Mr. Chairman, that's why Alberta Transportation requires the roadside development permit to be issued from them.
so I don't, what does that mean though?
Essentially, they would put their own conditions on the permit, just as Lethbridge County would, in terms of how the applicant would be accessing the highway.
Oh, okay. So you may have to put up a fence or something, so you can only have one or two, one drive, okay, I'll just leave it.
That
So
would be
my-
at their discretion.
My other question is, 2 parking spots seems to be kind of on the shy side. You can maybe see 3 or 4, but 2 is pretty small, isn't it? And, are they doing mechanical work in the garage? Or, because they have all the overhead doors blocked off with cars?
Mr. Chairman, my understanding is they purchase the vehicles at wholesale and then basically clean them up, turn around and sell them. They are not doing any repair work for any vehicles on site, nor would they be providing any automotive services for customers coming to their property.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Is it okay with 2 parking spots? Seems pretty low. Claude?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this is gonna work, but the 28 vehicles that he's gonna be having on the lot on a permanent base, would he be thinking that if he doesn't have the 28, he could be using some of those spaces too for the customer parking?
Well, I guess it's like everybody else. If you see a spot, you just park in it anyways when you pull this out.
My understanding is the customer spots are not necessarily designated to say, customers park here.
Wherever.
Pretty much wherever, and my understanding too is this business does not have a lot of traffic coming to the property. Those are quite, so that's why they felt that they only needed 1 or 2 spaces. But that's the applicant's perspective, of course, so.
Okay. Any other comments? If there's no other comments, we could use a motion.
Then we'll move that development permit application 2019-029 be approved as drafted.
Any other comments? Call for the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we have a 10:30 appointment. Mark Dubois from KPMG is here to present the financial statements. Oh, Jennifer, I guess. That's page 733.
It's a handout. Sorry.
Morning, everyone. This is a 2018 audited financial statement. The audit committee had reviewed the 2018 audited financial statement with the auditors, KPMG, and is recommending approval as presented.
Ken, can you speak up just a little bit? Or use the mic?
I might just need to be closer to you.
I'll start over again. The audit committee has reviewed the 2018 audited financial statements with the auditors, KPMG, and is recommending approval as presented. Mark, is your presented?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your meeting to meet with me today. I'm here to present the results of the audit of the financial statements for the county for the year ending December 31st, 2018. Subject to council's approval, we've completed our audit work and we're prepared to issue a clear opinion on the financial statements. I'll maybe just run through the financial statements and hit a few of the highlights. Starting with our draft audit report, subject to your approval. You'll see the audit report looks a bit different than what you may have seen in the past. The first section is the opinion, whereas in the past it always used to be the end of the audit report. We're prepared based on our audit report that we performed to issue a clear opinion. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the county as at December 31st, 2018, and its results of operations, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. If you go to page 2 of the statements, the statement of financial position, this is a statement that shows the financial assets, the liabilities, and the non-financial assets of the county as at a report at point in time, so as at December 31st. Financial assets at December 31st, 2018 totaled $36.4 million. And that's consistent with where you were last year at 37.1. Your liabilities, this will include all liabilities that are due regardless of whether they're payable in the next reporting period or beyond. Total liabilities as at December 31st, 2018 were $29,139,000 compared to the prior year, $27,247,000. That leaves you with net financial assets for the year of $7,334,000. And what that represents is basically the net financial assets that the county has available to continue to deliver its programs and services to its ratepayers. Net non-financial assets are the assets that are consumed in delivering those services. So that would be things like your roads, bridges, infrastructure, as well as inventory for consumption such as gravel and prepaid expenses. The total non-financial assets is $135 million compared to the prior year of $137 million. As you're aware, tangible capital assets are amortized over their estimated useful life, so that's demonstrating the consumption of those tangible capital assets. That brings us down to accumulated surplus of $142 million. What that accumulated surplus is represented by is unrestricted surpluses of $2,738,000, which compares very closely to the prior year accumulated unrestricted surplus of $2,739,000. Your restricted surpluses or your reserves of $26,910,000, and then your amounts that are invested in tangible capital assets. So these are the infrastructure that's out there, the roads, the bridges, the buildings. That's value of $112,812,000, bringing you to a total of $142 million. Looking at the overall, net financial assets represent about 20% of your financial assets. So in the prior year it was 26.7. So that's a number that's going to fluctuate a bit based on the uses of your financial assets in the year. We flip to the next page, the statement of operations. This is basically the statement that shows the activity for the year compared to budget and to the prior year. So if we look at your total revenues came in at $26,284,000. That compares quite closely to budget of $26,438,000 and prior year of $25,740,000. On the expense side, total expenses were $25,931,000 compared to prior year $26,226,000 and budget of $21,173,000. That brings you down to an excess of revenues over expenditures for the current year of $353,000, which represents about 1.3% of your operating revenue. So very, very close. That was what we would expect to see in a municipality operating at a break-even basis. Under other, this is items that represent or tie more to the capital activities. So in that, you'll see that the two biggest numbers, of course, are the government transfers for capital assets of $9.1 million and the transfer of the airport net assets of $14,369,000. So in the year, the county entered into an agreement to transfer those assets to the city. The transfer goes across to the other government at your carrying value. So that would be your depreciated value of the assets less the debt that the city assumes. coming down to $14,369,000. That leaves you with the deficiency for accounting purposes of $4.5 million. If you flip to the next page, you take that deficiency, and then the items that impacted that, I guess, would be your acquisition of tangible capital assets of $20 million, adding back the depreciation expense that's included as an operating expense of just under $7 million, and then the proceeds on the sale of some of those capital assets of $1.5 million, and of course the transfer of the airport net assets to the city of $14.3 million. After taking that into account and the change in inventories and prepaids, that gives you a change in your net financial assets of $2.6 million for the year, a decrease, bringing your net financial assets at the end of the year to $7.3 million. The next statement is the statement of cash flows. This statement then takes the statement of operations, the deficiency of $4.5 million, which includes those capital transactions, and shows what the impact has been on the cash resources of the county for the year. So from operating activities, you had a net positive increase in cash of $11.2 million, which compares very closely to the prior year. Capital activities, you spent $19.1 million. And then investing activities, there's about $9.4 million that was transferred from cash available for operations to investments, which would include things like GICs with original maturities greater than 3 months. Financing activities, you have a net cash inflow of $6.2 million. That includes the new debenture debt proceeds of $7.7 million that you took out to finance some of the capital asset additions in the year. So overall, that leaves a change in cash and cash equivalents of $7.7 million, bringing your cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year to $13.8 million. That's basically the financial statements. As Deputy Reed Benson has indicated, we have met with management and the audit committee to review the results of the audit in detail, and we're prepared to issue our report here today.
Are there any questions? I have one. On page 4, where you talk about the acquisition of tangible capital assets, is that the calcium stabilization notes? So, just out of curiosity then, if you go back to page 2, where you're amortizing them, how come you didn't add in the $6 million there, or does that come to another?
The amortization is included in all of the various program expense sections, or sort of 2. So you're talking about in the tangible capital assets line.
Yes.
So what that line is, last year you had $135 million of net book value of tangible capital assets. This year you have the additions, less the current year amortization, less the disposals, would come to $133 million. I'm not sure if I'm following.
So, yeah, I guess if you put $6 million in on page 4, kind of, how come it doesn't, I don't see it really reflected on page 2, Tracy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is reflected in that line. We also have the disposition of the airport, which would have more than offset that purchase. And the $6.5 million is just the debt, which would show up under long-term debt under financial liabilities as well. But the asset side of it would have increased, but it would have decreased because of the transfer of the sale and depreciation of $7 million a year. So that's why it actually went down this year.
Okay, because theoretically, don't you add, when you fix a road up like that, doesn't it go back to a start over type position?
Yep.
And then you amortize it down through the proper process,
Yeah,
right?
and we did.
Okay. Any other questions? I like simple. Yeah.
So I'd like to have the committee, motion is that the council approve the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2018, as presented by KPMG
on that motion?
So yes, if I name it, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, thank you. Just asking, so the standing of the county is in a good, fairly good shape, I believe. Could you comment on that, please?
Yeah, the financial position remains very consistent with prior years for the county as a whole.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carries. Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you. Only charges for 10 minutes.
I had to walk over. Yeah. Hey, it's 20
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
That's cool.
Thanks, Ken.
Good job.
Let's go into camera. Okay. We'll take 5 minutes.
Can I go into camp?
Yeah.
We don't donate because it doesn't really meet our guidelines for this donation request under our land trust guidelines. We did in the past act as a charitable partner. We've given out receipts, and they did apply for grant funding in the amount of $20,000 to the province, and the application was unsuccessful as it was not a capital project. The reason why it doesn't meet our requirements is because it won't be really benefiting county residents. It won't even be located in the county. So it'll be located at the exhibition.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then maybe you can follow through a little bit on that one, that does not benefit the county residents. How do you come up with that one?
Just because traditionally we've done things that you could see benefit for the county if it was located in the county or there was some, tourist attraction for the county. Certainly you've got discretionary funding over your amount, so you could donate to this, but under the land trust grant that we've just updated, it doesn't meet those requirements.
I guess my only comment is, but it's kind of heritage of the whole community. It's not specifically the city or, it's everybody. So I don't know where you could put it, go in the county to get the attraction to people to see it that would meet the requirement of that fund.
Yes.
But I do think we should fund it somehow or other.
And like we can fund all the reasons, books and stuff. And as a side point, I saw Glenn this morning, and he wishes to have the request put into this, and that he would like a letter of support for any further donations that they would like to apply for. And that's just another letter. That's what I said that for sure.
I know this is a touchy subject, and to reject something like this sounds harsh, but looking at what we're all supporting, are we doing enough, or do we say we're not doing enough, we still gotta take on more? Just a question I got.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, I know you had said it doesn't meet the parameters of the land trust and that. This isn't, I guess this request was just a general request. It wasn't directed through that.
Yes, sorry,
Okay.
Councillor Campbell, I should clarify that. It's just a general request, and that's where we thought it may have fit, and it would meet those parameters.
So when a request such as this comes forward, then I guess it would be up to administration to try and see where it would fit best, I suppose, through where council could possibly fund it. And in this case, it's just administration feels that there isn't an appropriate source.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yes, that's correct, and sometimes with these requests, we can find other alternatives. We can find some grant funding and we support them with that, or like the Manali Center, and there was one of the recently too, that the funding, we can partner with them on a funding grant, and we can be the receiver of the funds and give out the income tax receipts where we've done those too. So before it gets to the council table, we try to see where those would fit. And this one just doesn't fit. I mean, certainly there's money under council's discretionary side.
Okay, and then,
Go ahead, sorry.
yeah, in the background, like the 2000 request that the county act as a charitable partner and issue charity tax receipts for donations made to this project.
We did this in the past. That's just the background. We did that for them previously, like we're doing with the McNally Center as well too. We wrote the tax receipts for the group through our organization, because sometimes some of these groups don't meet the charitable status, so we partner with them in order for them to have their tax receipts. And sometimes we funnel the money here and then prepay it out. That's another service we provide in partnering with those organizations.
So what's your thoughts here?
Well, my thought is pretty straightforward on there, you know, something like this on there with basically, you know, it affects a lot of people from way back or whatever, and I think this is absolutely wrong. We totally ignored it, but what we gotta come up with, that's another discussion, I guess, but I feel fairly strongly to support this financially.
Anyone else? This is Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think some sort of donation out of the council discretionary fund would be appropriate for this. It's a history story, it's something that for our area would be good for us to be involved with. What that amount is, I don't know.
There's currently 100,000 in council's discretionary fund.
That's another name we should change. Discretionary fund.
Or retirement fund?
Promotion and whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Just to that point, Mr. Chairman, I don't disagree with what Councillor Campbell has just said, but it does, I mean, we're always opening things up for different interpretation, and I guess with the discretionary funds, I guess my only concern would be if we were to donate a substantial sum from that fund, I would just have concerns moving forward that, you know, we do have a policy, we have, you know, donation policies in place to help and steer us and to kind of draw those lines. So that would be my only concern, is if we were to take a substantial sum and from the discretionary fund, I would just be concerned going forward that how do we manage those requests going forward?
I agree.
Christina?
I was hoping somebody would come up with a dollar figure,
Oh, I got no problem with that, but you probably turn it down.
other than the dollar. So go ahead, what is it?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how we gotta word this, Mr. Chairman, but the thing is, this thing is fairly touchy for the whole area, because of Second World War, and maybe, you know, especially the Second World War, you know, and I feel fairly strongly about this, and I would like to see that we, the need, or contribute, up to $5,000 towards this cost on that, and whatever fund it should come from. It's another discussion, but that's my recommendation.
Okay, so you're not taking any funds from any,
He didn't make a
the administration review the request here, that to obtain the donation of $5,000 from some area or whatever. So, and that a letter of support for any further donations they would like to receive to apply for.
So just for clarity's sake, you're asking us to find the 5,000 in another fund, or is that?
Yeah, if there's anything else.
We've looked at everything, and this is, my understanding is this is the spot where there is funds available. So you don't want to take it out of there, or?
A discretionary fund.
Yeah.
Not sure of that.
Yeah.
So it's for.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Well, in this, if I may, Mr. Chairman, in this situation, what it's for and what we should remember, I absolutely got no problem getting it out of the council discretionary fund.
So a letter of support, 5,000 out of the discretionary fund, okay.
It's way more generous than I would be anyway. I just think that after the or we kind of going with the rest of people sending in money or requests for money.
We got two. There's two people, land trust grants, and then the other part for people that apply for other grants.
I mean, that's good in any of them. That's what they're saying, it doesn't fit with policy.
It isn't either one.
No.
Yeah. So there's a new motion up on the.
Go ahead. Klaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm of the same idea here. I think that, you know, I'm okay with giving that kind of money to these people, to this project, but I don't think that we should take it out of the discretionary fund, because I don't think that's correct.
Tracy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of for historical reference, the councilor's discretionary fund typically has been used for these oddball type one-off requests, which is kind of why we created the discretionary reserve in the first place, was to deal with things that don't fit in our normal operating plan. This being one of them. We don't have anything budgeted for this type of request, and so that is what we did create the discretionary reserve for, is for requests of council to give these types of donations to other organizations.
I'm just finishing up.
And do projects that aren't considered in their own budget.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personally, I feel it should come from the council's discretionary fund for what we giving it to and what we should stand for. And it's got nothing to do with the operation or anything else in the county. This is very important to a lot of people, and that's why I think it should come from the council's discretionary fund.
Any other discussion? Okay, call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried.
Yours.
You guys timed that pretty good. Sorry about it.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
So I guess, go ahead. You guys are ready.
Yeah, I'd say if you like, you notice this is the younger version of Sergeant Tom Howell. And I'm gonna suggest better looking version, but This Corporal Paul Bernard from the Pitcher Butte Detachment. He's actually from Fort McLeod Detachment and assuming the detachment commander role in Tom's absence. So I'm not sure, Paul, if you want to give yourself a 30-second intro. I don't give you too much justice other than you better look in the phone.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I should agree with that or not, but, yeah, just, thank you for having us here today. Like, Len said, I'm originally posted to Fort McLeod as a corporal there and was asked to take over for Tom and, Big Chief for a bit, so, undetermined amount of time, but, I'm there, if you guys have any questions in regards to Big Chief, surrounding areas that affects you guys.
So we'll just go around the table and introduce ourselves. My name's Lauren McKee. I'm counselor for Division 1, which is down on the very south end of the county.
Ann Mitchell, I'm the CAO.
I'm Claude Vanderveen, I'm councillor of District 6 and Chiefs right in the middle of that one.
Paul Horvath, I'm counselor for Division 3, Northeast 11.
Morris Eastram, and I'm 6 miles north of Big Butte, right along 843. A lot of problems on there.
Tori Campbell, Division 2, Coldell, north, south, and east.
Steve Campbell, Division 5, Knowlford, Monarch, Barrett area.
And Ken Benson, Division 4, between Steve's and that's part of it.
Something like that, yeah. Okay, we'll turn the floor to you.
Good, so, I'll kind of lead the show here, and of course, Paul will be here to offer some insight. The annual performance priorities, the last quarter, I included that in a package for you folks, and I won't get into the details of that too much unless anybody has any questions on them directly. What I can do is I will do is also talk about our new annual performance plan priorities coming up for the 2019-2020 season. So maybe just on the first part of that, any questions, concerns from the annual performance plan from last year? That's the last quarter.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going through this, I was wondering if you'd be able to give me a definition of the closing and the closing rate. I saw that and I just read, when I read through this here, just maybe.
Sorry, whereabouts are you?
So when we're talking about clearance rate, sorry, clearance, sorry, thank you.
Good, yeah, because I wasn't sure what the closing rate
Sorry.
is. Closing rate has something with speed radar and local distance. So clearance rates are really our solve rates. Traditionally, in the policing world, the clearance rate to solve rates are very high for persons crimes. So, Vicki, myself are sitting at a bar together, and he's hoping for Toronto, and I'm hoping for somebody else, and we get into a fist fight. And he takes a chair and hits me over the head with a chair. I know who hit me, and we're going to charge him for that. What's more difficult is we have that little fight, and I walk out into the parking lot, and I take my keys and I scratch down the side of his truck. He sees it, he finds out about it 2 days later and calls us. Our clearance rates on property crimes are much lower. So that's really what we're showing us. Some of the stats here are the provincial stats for clearance rates, and then the clearance rates for ourselves. So I'm not really shocked or alarmed when we have low property clearance rates, because they're the most difficult to solve. I'm more concerned about our persons crimes, where people know each other and we're not solving it. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Any other questions on?
Yeah.
I have a question, and it's just a general question, not necessarily on the report. And I know in the past, there's been some issues with recruitment, and that you guys were really down in your recruitment, were having challenges. Can you, like in the overall organization, can you just give me a bit of status update, perhaps?
There's kind of two words. We use recruitment as acquiring new members to go to depot type thing. So I can tell you that in depot, which is in Regina, which is our own training facility, I think they're on about 1,000 members a year through that facility. You Paul can help me out here. I think this year from depot, we're getting 160 or something.
Yeah, 160 to the
Yeah. So we're getting 160 recruits, 160 new members coming out to the field. The other part of it was, I said, the difference between staffing and recruiting. So the recruiting is bringing on new people. We're doing, I think, okay. I think we're, in this division in Alberta, we're getting lots of people coming here. That is addressing what is really more of a staffing issue. How are we doing today? And that is very subjective to each detachment. Some detachments are doing very well, some not so well. We're always going to see, we call them hard vacancies and soft vacancies. Our hard vacancies are the members that are physically gone and we're not filling those positions. Soft vacancies are our members with medical issues, maternity leave, that kind of stuff. The reality is both those type of vacancies hit us the same way, where we don't have operational members on the road. Again, those are the challenges we're always going to have. With our recruitment and the increase in number of new members coming out, that should quickly address some of our present staffing issues. I know with Pitcher Butte is doing a little bit better than us right now for getting new members, and maybe let Paul just talk about some recent developments with Pitcher Butte's discussion.
Yeah, so technically we have one vacancy right now, but Pitcher Butte is allotted 4 constable positions. And we have 4 constables working right now, but one of them's fresh out of depot, so he's on his field coach.
Sorry, what's depot?
Our training.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so he just graduated, and so after graduation, there's a 6-month training period. So for that 6 months, he's assigned a specific training constable. And so he's about 3 weeks in, so we do have 4 constables, but he doesn't count as a separate member until that field coach training is completed. At that point, then we will be at full staff, and we have been assigned a remounted member. So a member that had previous RCP experience, he left and went to another police force or to do something else. And as of right now, he's assigned to come back to Pitcher Butte. We just don't have a time frame on that one right now. So when he comes, we'll be sitting at above complement right now.
So how many members are you're short from here to the board?
Here's the board. I wouldn't know because we're dealing with Raymond Detachment, Alberta Detachment, Carson, so each of us are kind of separate units. I think Pitcher Butte is pretty much up to speed. We're a little bit down on our numbers, and we're working with our staffing people to try to get our numbers back up. The Coaldale Detachment, we have the luxury of having 17 members, so when we have 2 or 3 or 4 vacancies, that's easier to compensate that versus a Pitcher Butte with say 2 vacancies of 4 constables type thing. So from a practical perspective, we're still running 24-hour coverage. We still have people working. We're still solving our crime. It'd be advantageous to be fully staffed. Any corporation, any store, there's staffing is usually our biggest issue and something we have probably least amount of control over. The RCMP is a big machine, it's a big outfit, and it's hard to turn that ship quickly. And there's been some strides made in our training academy in Regina to try to streamline our recruiting process to get more people in. And we're hopeful we turn the corner and we're going to do better. I'm not sure if there's a specific.
No, that
concern
answers
about
my
staff.
question.
Yeah.
I just know that a few of the different conferences and stuff that we've been asked when we get on the conversation of rural crime. And there was a talk of how far down you are from capacity, the overall organization. But yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question very well as I can.
Yeah, I know, but because it's you guys don't stay. I mean, this is a really busy area.
Yeah, we're doing okay. We could do better.
Did you, you were here last time, did you saw here taking control from inside?
Remind me again on the.
You had members putting tickets in when you could use some help on it or whatever.
Yeah, so what what we did, and we're working through that, and I think we've done, made some good strides there. We've gone from, just a paper ticketing process, where we issue a triple copy ticket, or 4-copy ticket, to now what we call e-ticketing. And, so the members were doing some data input in the vehicles when they issued the tickets, the violation tickets. That helps us a lot because of our support staff don't have to take those tickets now and do all the manual entries on that. So we've gone full strides there. We were behind a bit on our data input for those tickets, and we're now caught up. So we're doing well there. One area that we're doing well in is our, in Coaldale, is our municipal support. Again, as a reminder, we have 3 municipal employees funded by the town of Coaldale, and we have 2 public servants working, so that helps us a lot. I think we know traditionally with Pitcher Butte having 1 public service support staff, that service delivery sometimes could be difficult, especially when she's on training or holidays, that kind of thing. So help could always be used there to kind of augment or take away some of the day-to-day duties that the members have to do. I think we all know that our support staff are far more efficient at data entry and doing disclosure issues and stuff than our regular members are. We'd rather see our members out on the road doing that type of work.
Okay.
So just, again, just to kind of give an overview, the last annual performance plan, we talked about 3 priorities, objectives: employee wellness, reduce property crime through police visibility, and our habitual offender management program. So we focused on trying to get full attachment on getting the tools to allow our members to do the job better, and some of our training, some of our mandatory training to make sure that stuff's caught up. We've done a fairly good job on that. This year coming up, we're changing the employee wellness, and this is mandated from our folks up in the K Division to do a little bit more team building, a little bit more employee satisfaction type stuff to have happier, healthier employees. So we'll look at some more, a little bit different style of employee wellness coming up in the next year. We will still maintain our reduced property crimes through police visibility, the idea of having our members out on the road, hopefully nighttime in school zones, that type of stuff, and really enhance our police visibility in the community, that sense of safety that people, or the sense of security that people have when you see a police vehicle stopping someone at night outside your house, kind of thing, both in the rural area and in our municipalities. We gauge that through our traffic enforcement tickets, so we gauge how many tickets our members are writing, currently out there doing what we're asking them to do to be visible in our communities. The habitual offender management program is a crime reduction program that we're going to do again this year. And again, what we're doing is targeting our prolific offenders with the idea of moving them along, or helping them with their social issues, so they don't become a continual source of calls for service for us. So, for example, if Ray Hickey's been, his criminal activity's been such that we have to go to his house every second day, we're going to do our best to make sure that we help him so we don't have to go to his house every second day. And that might mean relocation, or it might mean stay in a correctional facility just to get you back on track. So we'll maintain that again going forward. The 4th initiative that we're going to do here in Coaldale, and other detachments will be doing the same, is we're looking at more of a community engagement type idea, where we're looking at potentially doing town halls or doing something with our public to try to gauge from them what their issues or concerns are. I think part of that we talked about rural crime and stuff, is to try to do those type of initiatives. I know Pitcher Butte is doing their rural crime watch stuff. Those are the same type of ideas we all are going to look at doing. So we'll formalize that a little bit more into our performance plan, and we'll be looking at getting some ideas back to you folks, as we've had in the past. If you have some ideas on initiatives that you think we should be doing, this is the time for us to hear from you guys. You represent the community. You hear from your folks. We'd like to hear from you as to what's going on, what would you like to see this thing. So that's kind of the 4th initiative that we're doing as part of our annual priorities. Does that make sense?
So when we were at the RMA, went to a section, it wasn't parkland, but, in that general vicinity, the 3 municipalities have gone together with this, dial-out system, and the RCMP is involved in it too. So they do any specifically targeted, like thefts or warnings from the RCMP for specific areas, as well as municipal announcements through it. Have you heard about that system?
Yeah, that's the overall crime watch.
It's an updated version of it.
Yeah, we're seeing now different versions of that through, of course, social media has changed now, and most people don't have these, home phones, they're registering cells, so the technology's changed, the social media part has changed a lot. What we're seeing a lot is, distinct communities are all linking together on their own little process, being on the same, Facebook account or this type of thing. I know where I live in Coaldale, Westgate, all the homes there are on a Facebook account, and they're sending messages back and forth to each other about issues and concerns. So that's, I think, is the new version of that. It's not as led by the police anymore, and what we found in the Coaldale detachment is what we were doing was just basically doing media releases to the rural area. And what we're not necessarily wanting to tell people what's going on, we want people to tell us what's going on. We want our community members, especially in rural areas, to be proactive in calling us and telling us there's a suspicious vehicle out here. Instead of us saying, we're looking for suspicious vehicles, that should go without saying. It's your community, deal what's going on, call us. If somebody's sitting in your driveway, your neighbor notices it, call us. Or what we're hoping is you and all your neighbors are hooked in together, and you're maybe asking, should you have a blue truck parked in your driveway? I know you're away working today. And if the answer is no, then please call the police. That kind of thing. So that's where we see, I think, the overall crime watch of us just sending information out. We want it back to us. I'm not sure if I talked last time about an incident we had out in the I can't remember the lake, Stafford Lake area. Did I talk about that with you folks?
I don't think so.
No. I'll just use that as maybe just a quick example. I'm not trying to throw your question away, but I just want to kind of tell you what we need from the public and what's helping us. So this actually started in the Pitcher Butte area. There was a theft of a white Dodge truck, and on a Thursday, I believe. Through the weekend, we're getting calls about this white Dodge truck out in different parts of Coaldale, Pitcher Butte area, being suspicious. So the rural residents are calling us, and we're trying to find this truck. And by the time we get there, the truck is gone, missing, whatever time delays for it. But not a lot of thefts happening, but a lot of good information about this vehicle. So we're actively looking for this vehicle because it's stolen. On the Monday, we get Monday morning about 5 o'clock, we get a call from a rural resident in the Coaldale area, just south of Coaldale, saying there's a white truck parked and some guys passed out in the truck. So our member goes out, parks in front of the truck, and gets out and sees a guy in the driver's seat, walks around to the driver's seat. The person sees our member tapping on the window, wakes up, puts his vehicle in drive, and rams our police vehicle, pushes it away, and takes off. So we found our vehicle, but now our vehicle's gone. So we're actively looking for this vehicle. We find the vehicle about an hour later. There's another rural resident says, his vehicle sitting in my yard, not sure what it is. It's a white Dodge pickup truck. Okay, there's our truck, it's got damage on it, so we're good with that. We also have a good picture of the person, so we're now sending out, I did a media release, and the public starts calling, saying we know who this guy is. So we're looking for this guy, but now we don't have the vehicle. We get a call about 2 o'clock in the afternoon from another rural resident saying, you know, a black Chev truck is missing, and in general proximity, so now we knew he probably took that truck and off with it. Then at about 4 o'clock, we get a phone call out by the Tempest area saying there's a guy in a black truck out here skulking around. We think he's likely trying to steal gas. We knew right away that's our guy. So off we go. We set up some containment with help from the Pitcher Butte detachment, from Tabor RCMP ourselves, and we chase this guy out into the Stafford Lake. This is when they're still icing the lake. He ditches the vehicle, runs across the lake. I don't know why he didn't fall through, but irregardless, unbeknownst to him, most of us were on the west side of the lake. He was on the east side of the lake, so he was us. We ran across the lake, ran through some trees. We lost him temporarily. We're having the dog coming out to track him. And another resident calls and said, my alarm went off in my garage. And obviously that was a good indication someone's in the garage, and we found him in that garage hiding and arrested the guy. So it's a very long story that happened over a span of 4 or 5 days type thing. But the only way that we solved these crimes, and this person in particular, was through the support and calls we got from the public. Us sending out a message saying there's a white truck stolen, when it's recovered, short time later, isn't really that effective. What we really want from people to say is, there's something happening in my area that I'm not happy with, let us know, and we will investigate, and we will find these people, and we'll be effective in arresting some of our people. So that's what we're looking for. That's the community help that we want. That's what rural crime watch really is people looking out for each other in their own communities and telling us what's different, what's happening. I quite simply could be in the Tempest area driving along and seen a black truck, and I wave at it, not knowing it was stolen earlier, but that was our truck. But the person that lived there knew exactly that person should be there and called us. So that's what we're looking for. That's the help we need to work together. That make sense? That was just a nice, clean story of so many people calling us, helping us. We can't do it on our own.
So through your public engagement piece, that's gonna be something that you're gonna get across, obviously, right? Is the more that you guys can phone in and help us out, and is that a key piece of your public engagement that you're going to your town hall meetings and whatnot?
I think the public engagement part that I'm looking for is, we want to hear how are we doing as a police service, how can we do better, and what are your priorities? We can't, this is really the essence of community-based policing, where we can't just say we know it all and we do all. We need to hear from you folks. We serve the community. What is the community feeling as issues? And maybe, sometimes we're, especially with social media, we get ourselves kind of excited over things that are not maybe based on truth. So having those engagement sessions and really getting down to what is actually happening in our communities. The stats that we provided to you, I think, is a good snapshot of what's really going on in our community. I think last couple of years we've been hearing lots of issues about rural crime and how bad it is. But do people have the facts? And in each individual detachment area, each individual community, county, there are variances and differences on what rural crime is. So we need to kind of tailor our policing service to what is our reality, but also to what you guys are saying.
And we have quite a few mechanisms that we get information out, so when you know the town hall dates, certainly people contact that, and we can make sure that it gets out to our residents.
Yep. And this is something that Paul and I would probably do together and try to do it county-wide. And it might, a good forum might be the Rural Crime Watch group, and invite other public into that, to maybe augment what they're doing already, and get some feedback.
Yes, if I may, I'd like to make a comment, how the rural community is getting more and more involved, and that's probably because there's so much more incidents going on, and it's happening in my area. I'm 6 miles north, and my son is about 12 miles north, and there was quite a few incidents down there. And a little while ago down there, sure enough, there was a suspicious vehicle down there just a little bit south of my place, and we talked about it, and the guy who works with us, he says, yeah, that's strange. He phoned the RCP detachment right away, and you guys apprehended him in Shaughnessy, and sure enough, there was outstanding warrants there for these two people, or whatever, I think it was a couple anyways. But anyways, whatever happened to him, guess what? The same vehicle shows up about 2 weeks later, but now it's a two-tone vehicle. From all white, it's now black and white. Same vehicle. So, but I think they're starting to realize that hey, we're looking out for these type of people, and hopefully that's going to help. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and that's exactly like what I was talking about. That specific situation came because the community members took the time to call us and recognize that that vehicle was suspicious and not in an area that it was supposed to be, right? Yeah. So, like you said, that information from the residents of the
that's picking up a lot of people that gets not to that now, and being that strange vehicle that shouldn't be requiring it. I think it's more and more.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's, with social media, right, people are starting to talk and pass that information around, and I can speak to Picture View Rural Crime Watch. I know that was one of the things you were mentioning, but they do have a system in place, the one-call system, so everybody that's part of that, Rural Crime Watch, if they see any suspicious activity, they call, a preset phone number and they can pass on that information, and it automatically gets fanned out, so this is kind of the new version of the old, fan out system, and so Picture View Rural Crime Watch is utilizing that system, and so it can go out either in a text message, a phone call, or an email, and so it's something that obviously is growing in our area, and the Rural Crime Watch is trying to push it, and everybody, because the more people involved in that, obviously the more effective it is, right?
That's good to see. It's too bad it hadn't happened.
Ross? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the rural projects go on, where did the majority of the people come from? Do they come from our area itself, or do they come from further away?
I'm not sure if it's a blanket statement. I think generally speaking, we're gonna have our local people that are doing criminal activity. And we do get traveling criminals. I'd like to think probably most of them are in this area. Criminals, for the most part, from my experience, a lot of this is, drug addiction, this type of stuff that they need to maintain their lifestyle, and they're not putting a lot of effort into maintaining that lifestyle. Our people from Lethbridge County aren't gonna drive all the way up to Sherwood Park to commit a crime and come back, because it's too much effort. They need to do it now, here and now. So I think as a general rule, it's our local people that are doing it. After saying that, we do have traveling criminals, and those are some very well organized groups. We got some recent information on sort of gypsy Roma type people were doing some scams with the switching fake gold and that kind of stuff. So, we're always aware of those type of people coming through, but I think as a general rule, it's our local folks that are doing it. We do have a crime reduction unit called the crew team up in Calgary, and that team is focused on some of the more prolific area criminals. So the ones that are maybe based out of Calgary but are traveling out to rural areas. So we certainly have those, and we certainly have people looking at those groups of people as well. But I think as a rule, we're looking at our own locals for the most part.
That's interesting, you said that about Sherwood Park, that's what they told me I should go vote.
Yeah.
Wondering how convenient that was to drive there.
Yeah.
Well, my voting station was, my wife voted there. I got it before I voted.
Anything else?
No, so we'll do that community engagement thing, and again, I want a little bit of feedback from you folks in time as to what you want to see from us. This is the first time I actually gave you some stats, and again, the stats that we provide you guys can be taken different ways, right? It can be alarming to think that we have crime. Some people still think that there is no crime in our views. We need to kind of set, I think, a baseline as to what our crime levels are, and then in the future can talk about, are we having spikes, or are we getting decreases, that sort of stuff. But I think as a general rule, our crime has been pretty level, and we're always going to have that. That's why we have police, because unfortunately that's a reality.
So do you think that the majority of people who have crime report it? Like, or how does that break down, kind of? Because I've heard a few people lately say, nah, we don't bother. Like, it was just something minor. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the wrong attitude for people to have. But how do you kind of get that improved upon their attitude?
Well, I think we have to educate people to say that, we need that information. We may not necessarily solve those crimes, especially we talked earlier about property crimes, our solve rates are pretty low. But we get frustrated at Paramount when we do a vehicle stop and the back of the vehicle is full of stolen tools, and we have no idea where they're from. And sometimes there's people not reporting stuff to us, and we can't return property to people. We can't charge people, so we can't say it's stolen. So So we need that information. We, for the most part, are trying to be intelligence-led in our policing. So if in your neck of the woods in the south, we're getting raped and pillaged down there, and no one reports, then we as the police are thinking life is beautiful down there, best area of our community. Nothing happens, so we're not gonna put a lot of effort into an area where there's no need for an effort. So as a community, if you don't tell us what's going on, we have no other means of recognizing problem areas. You know, we know crime goes on, we know people, we talk people knowing that they don't have a job, how do they have what they have? And without linking it, we're you know, a good example way back when was, just started out in policing, I did a stop in Saskatchewan on the highway, and there was 3 guys in the vehicle, and they had 2 big duffel bags full of cigarettes, cartons of cigarettes. I knew they stole from a store somewhere. I arrested them, but it took me a long time to figure out where it was stolen from. I knew it was stolen. Luckily, businesses, for the rule, most part, will report to us. But if that was someone's, you know, gun collection or something, they didn't call us, those people would walk away. We need that information.
My perspective on that is I find that policing in Manitoba and rural communities, the farm communities, anytime you talk to them, they always tell you, oh yeah, you know what, last week, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw a truck came in and I think they were trying to steal gas or whatever. And I say, well, did you phone the police? I didn't want to bother you guys are busy. Well, they will never know about that truck, right? And I think it's very indicative of the rural communities. They feel like they're bothering the police. And so for us, it's an education piece to teach them, you're not bothering us. We're either working or we're on call, whatever it is. You need to phone us because that's why we're here to respond to those calls. But I can't tell you how many times I hear talking to people face to face. They'll tell you about something that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago and they didn't want to bother us. So that's for us, it's important to get that message out. You're not bothering us, call us at any time of the night. Because that person that you think maybe just seen the gas from you has probably gone to 10 or 15 other yards and has done stuff with it. So for us, it's an educational piece for sure.
I guess we should try and get a message out to people to make sure that they know.
And the staff relief example is exactly that. You know, it was a theft of a truck, but there's also other thefts go along. At some point, we need to stop these people there. So that's where we're going. The more we know, the better we can be. Now we have to be quiet because the media's here.
The media's already here,
Yeah.
we're streaming live.
Our best media.
It's just me.
You know.
Anything else?
Just a comment, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're definitely on track with your performance plan. It's the property crime that I think we all hear about that is the issue, so if it gives us, our citizens, some peace of mind, I think you're definitely on track, man.
Thanks, yeah, that's just a means of trying to track our people out on the road. And you know, I want to hear the feedback again. How are we doing? You know, do you feel safe? Do you feel like our members are out there? And that's, as a supervisor, Paul and I both need to know, how are we doing? Can we improve? That's exactly what citizens work.
Clons?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just wondering, how much interaction, how much do you guys work with our CPOs?
Our community peace officers?
Yeah.
Oh, lots. You know, we've had some unfortunate instances where they need some help. They've been involved with some high-risk stops where they call us. I think we have an excellent working relationship. Our relationship is so close with them that we've even touched vehicles together. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to tell my folks not to go near your vehicles, so they don't get damaged that way. But no, I think you know, you bring up a point that I like to raise quite often. The Lethbridge County peace officers do a fantastic job. They work very well with our people. They have a good program, and I think we've got some really good people. So they're keepers.
Good. Good to hear. Any other comments?
Just that there's a lot more farmers
Yeah, but again, that's something, that's an education piece that, you know, unfortunately, our world has changed. And you know, we just had 3 trucks, older trucks stolen from a farm yard here last week, and all 3 had keys in it. So, you know, how many of those trucks will be stolen if there's no keys in it? And I get it, it's a convenience thing, and it's difficult, but we have to work on different ways to educate the rural community that you can't leave things unlocked, and it's a reality. Unfortunate reality.
You bet. Anything else from your side?
No, I think we're good. We're happy to be here, and we appreciate the invite to talk to you and your feedback.
Certainly appreciate the service you're providing, and just hoping that more people kind of get involved in saying what's happening out in the county and the country, and because without passing along the information to you, you really have a hard time figuring out what the patterns are, what to be looking for as well. So the more information that people provide you, the better off we'll all be. So should try and get that message out a little better again too. Okay. Well, thanks very much for coming in, and you're welcome to join us for lunch.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. So we need a motion to accept.
I'll move so.
Morris. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
And we hold out for Luigi South. South Bend. We need a motion for all in favor? Is 2019-0-037, and Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subdivision application in front of you is for the southwest quarter of 12-10-24, west of the 4th. It's located about a mile west of Monarch. As you can see here, the hamlet of Monarch's here, and we're looking here in the southwest of 12-10, over into the southwest corner. In this area here. The applicants have applied to subdivide out a 3-acre vacant bare land parcel out of that southwest corner, so it touches the West County Road allowance. The purpose of the application is the applicants who are here today would like to create a title so that their son can develop a residence just to the southwest of their existing yard there where they live, in that southwest corner next to the municipal road allowance. This will be the first subdivision out of the quarter section. So the application is made under the bare land vacant parcel criteria. The yard will be down in the corner here. This area here, just start about here. There's just a gentle slope to the south. There's another yard that's just located south to that here, you can see. And then the Oldman River is down further south here. The road kind of ends here in the coulees or whatever like that. So, a couple things with this application. When it was circulated out to you, we didn't have all the comments back yet from the circulation. None of the utility companies have responded and such. There's no requirements for any easements or anything like that. Since the application also came out to you, we did get some comments in from the adjacent landowner to the south here, who would be living beside them there. So that adjacent landowner had, I guess, some more questions, some comments. They were asking about the access to the irrigation line and irrigation outlet that runs through the property south to the yard here. The yard coming out here will just be to the west of that irrigation line. There was also had some questions about the location of the gas line and if it runs through the property that serves their yard to the south there. There is a gas line that comes in across to this corner here and then runs up parallel. So we do have the comments back from ACO Gas. There's an easement in place already for ACO Gas line, so they don't need the easements already in place. And it runs parallel to the county's road, so that remained intact. They can't put their dwelling obviously or anything on top of the gas line, so it won't affect the neighbor. And with the setbacks, the 120 feet that they have to be back from the county road, they'd be off the gas line anyways, because the gas line runs parallel to the road, so that's not an issue. So I did phone the landowner because his email just came in on Tuesday in the afternoon. So I did phone him yesterday. I talked to him just to answer some of his questions and that sort of a thing, and just to describe to him the subdivision and where the location of the L&D line was and the gas line and that sort of thing, just so he would have his questions answered or like that. So that one was not in your package because it just came in, but we tried to address that and alleviate any, I guess, questions or concerns that he had on that. The LNAV as well, in their response, they don't have any issues or problems with the subdivision. And if the applicants are looking for water or anything like that, they'll have to enter an agreement with the LNAV for that. So with that, the parcel is eligible for subdivision consideration as the first subdivision of the quarter section. It complies with the Bearland parcel subdivision criteria at the 3 acres. It has to be at least 2 acres, not exceed the 3 acres, which it does. The applicants are proposing that they'll have an on-site private septic field, and they'll use just a cistern with hauled water. So as one of the conditions on the subdivision, which is part of the vacant parcel subdivision criteria, number 4 would be that they would have to provide that soils analysis just to verify suitability to have a septic field on there for new residents. As well, this is in the Monarch area, but the area where they're subdividing here, they don't infringe upon any minimum distance separation to any feedlots or anything like that. So there's no abandoned gas wells or confined feeding operations that setback distances are compromised. So with that, I have recommended approval to you on the application as a Bearland first parcel subdivision. Municipal reserve is not applicable because it's the first parcel out. So I have recommended approval to you with the conditions. There's 6 on there. Taxes are paid and up to date. A development agreement entered into if required with the county. A survey provided by Alberta Land Surveyor for the parcel. That the number 4 have the soils test completed on there to verify and demonstrate the suitability for a septic field. We don't have all the utility comments back yet. So number 5 is just a blanket condition. Any easements or utility right-of-ways are needed. And then number 6 is a condition as well. We haven't heard back from Historical Resources because the Old Man River and the location here, this is an area flagged by the province for potential historic resources. So they do have to apply for the clearance through the director there of Alberta Culture for the historical resource clearance. So the application was circulated to them, but we haven't heard anything back yet if anything is required or not. So number 6 would just be the condition that they have to meet and the conditions of our historic resources, and then if an assessment is required on the land, they'd be responsible at their expense for conducting that site assessment. So with those 6 conditions, I recommend the approval to you.
So Steve, does that road allowance, is it dead end at the residence, the next residence, or?
Yeah, just kind of where the R is here, the road comes in here and turns into their yard. kind of dead ends here, whatever, this here, the clue starts to drop off here, so you see whatever, so this guy's kind of the last end of the road there. Yeah.
Any other questions? Sir, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve, your report mentions a slope study, or just if it's more than 15 degrees.
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, there is some slope, but it's a buildable area.
Yeah, it's a gentle slope. It's actually more deceiving on the picture what it actually is when you actually are out there to look at it. And as you can see, there's another yard south of them. But as this kind of a grass area here, as you get south here, there's a kind of a bit of a hill here, and then it actually kind of tapers off, and it's a little bit more, it's more like a bench kind of gradual again. But it's not steep, it's probably in the 5 to 6% range. It's probably suitable for, you could probably do a walkout basement if you wanted to on the silver with that, but it's not significant. As it kind of levels off kind of like a bench, and then this guy's below yet here where he has his yard like that. The bylaw requires 15% you have to do a slope.
Claude?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where's the approach going to be coming onto their property?
They'll have to apply to the county here, but the yard is sitting here as a square thing, so it'll be somewhere in here, the county road.
Any other questions? No other questions, we can use the motion.
I'll move. Yes, yeah. Application 2019-010-0.7 be approved, subject to the conditions of item draft resolution.
Any other discussion? Call for question, those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
We'll get a letter that comes out from the surveyor with approval on
Okay, let's move down to K1.
Thanks, Steve.
We're on the other one first. We're on the other one first. So if you guys want the motion to do this, right? Thanks.
So we are on K1, pages 64 to 76.
This is a 2018 strategic plan update, and I'm not going to go through the whole report because we had it for a bit of time. Just to ask council if there's any specific questions on any of the areas that we're updating. I tried to give an overview of what we were at right now. There is a few outstanding items from 2018, but those are being tracked right now. I've gone over them with the senior management team. So in this report, it'll give you a little bit more clear outline of when they will be updated. So if anybody has any questions, I don't really think they want me to read the whole report.
So there was a few things that day when they left that they were going to bring back to you. What was the most significant thing out of that?
Is that for the new strategic plan or?
Yes.
Yeah, this is, I'm just going to, this is next. Right now, this is just closing off the 2018 strategic plan and an update on that, the progress update that is supposed to come forward.
Any questions? Well,
Then, I'll move that council proceed this plan development.
any further discussion? So are you satisfied with the way that plan was compared to the new one you got?
This plan's a bit different than what I'm used to, and you'll see when we go into the new strategic plan that it's more of a high-level visioning document, and it's a broad strokes. What's gonna happen with the strategic plan if council goes ahead and adopts it today? I'll be developing a corporate business plan. The corporate business plan will be a little bit more detailed, so some of the details that you see on the 2018 plan will be on the corporate plan. So it'll be broad strokes, and the corporate plan will then be put in place, and I'm bringing it forward to the May 16th meeting. And then we develop the budget, the capital budget through that, and then all the individual department work plans will flow out through that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question or not?
Well, the water's been just a touch muddy there.
Okay.
But
Yeah, well, we have two things on the agenda, so this is just closing off the 28th strategic plan. There is quite a few differences from the 2018 plan. The other thing is too, I think that we've done, historically here at the county, we've always done a yearly strategic plan. And what I've usually done in the past is a council term plan. And I know when I first got here, I sat down with council, and we talked about goals and objectives. So going into the strategic planning process that took place in January with council and the senior management team, we kind of had a general idea of what council's direction and vision was through that goals and objectives document as well. So is there, what else did you need clarity on?
Well, I guess, so you're wanting to go away from the formula we had for strategic planning, but I'm not quite sure what you're replacing it with.
We're not going away from this, we still have a strategic plan. We had new facilitators this year. It is a little bit of a different formula. It's just a more high-level visioning document. So it'll actually be two parts. So here's the strategic plan, which is what council wants to set in place for goals and objectives. And then the corporate business plan will have some more of the details and the meat of what's getting done and when it's going to get done.
And that plan would be for a year?
The corporate business plan will be for the same term of time as the strategic plan. So it would be for the remainder of the council term.
So you would be doing this process next year then?
I still think we need to. This discussion came up several times, and I think council and administration all agree that we would still like to do the one-year check-in, because the strategic plan is a living document and things change. So we would still like to have our yearly strategic planning session update. Are we doing what we think is our vision correct? Do we have to change it? So I think it's really important that we keep the yearly strategic planning process in place, because I think we all agree there was very good discussion at that. We brought in economic development and planning and talked about those types of things. So I think if we have a 4-year plan and we go to this process, then we need to make sure that we still do our yearly check and update and tweak the plan as needed.
So we're just closing out the 18 for right now?
Yes.
But not any direction as to where we go from there?
In 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? Call for the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is that lady still here? Did she want to do an interview, or did she leave? She's gone. Oh, okay.
You always tell me this is gonna work and then.
Morris, needs help out.
There we go.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
now
Ian
I got
Morris.
So, do you wanna wait for Tori's?
What's that, Tree? Can get some popcorn.
Oh, show, how about for the show?
Is anybody else?
Very good. So as mentioned before, we did have a session at, in January with all of council and the senior management team. One of the biggest changes that, in this strategic plan, as mentioned by Vicky and myself, is that, it's a longer visionary document. And one of the other things that came up when we reviewed it with the senior management team, there is not a specific pillar for infrastructure. It's more dedicated to agriculture, because we are embracing through the strategic plan that we are an agricultural economy. So it's not that we don't realize the importance of infrastructure, it's just that the infrastructure is there to support the agriculture, to support the ongoing agriculture, and so that all the producers and everybody can get there. That has to be support. To get their goods to market. So while there isn't a pillar for infrastructure, we still understand that roads and bridges are very important. However, they are there to support the agriculture in the county. So our strategic plan acts as a roadmap for the future, guiding ourselves and administration as we go about setting priorities and delivering services. This plan outlines our vision for the county and the goals we have agreed to pursue over the next few years. As outlined below, we are committed to ensuring that Lethbridge County continues to be one of Canada's great agricultural communities. So county council commitments, that the county is committed to building and maintaining a vibrant, safe, and prosperous rural community. We'll work closely with residents, local business owners and operators, community stakeholders, and regional partners to preserve our outstanding quality of life. We want to ensure that Lethbridge County will continue to be an enviable rural community to raise a family, earn a good living, invest in business opportunities, and visit for recreation. So there's our vision and our mission, and what we are as Pride of the Region. We want to be one of Canada's great agricultural communities. It is a significant responsibility which we don't take lightly. Along with other agricultural communities across the country, Lethbridge County has a crucial role to play in feeding a growing world. Every member of council and every person on staff at the county understands and appreciates the fundamental importance of the agriculture and agri-food industry. Now, we had this discussion at the SMT, and there is some, we think that there needs to be some more education to our staff. Sometimes administrative staff and staff that aren't out in the field don't understand the importance of the agricultural business and what it involves. We did have some members of the staff go out on last year's tour, and I did think that that was a good opportunity for the staff here to see the county and to get a better idea of what our vision is and what we stand for. So I think we can do a little bit more work in that area as well, to get the staff here in the office to understand a little bit more what we are in the county. So we're keenly aware of the many challenges and opportunities facing the industry and stand prepared to play our role in supporting its ongoing evolution. And as we all know, one of our biggest issues and challenges is the lack of funding. So we always have to keep that at the forefront. So we believe in the value of listening. We were elected to represent the citizens of Lethbridge County, and we're committed to hearing what they have to say before we make decisions. We respect and honor the input provided by our citizens and strive to continually improve the way we engage citizens. Our doors and ears are always open. We believe in the value of communication. We appreciate that openness and transparency are the key to trust, building trust and accountability, and strive to share information with our citizens in a clear and understandable way. We work hard to explain the rationale for our decisions and take an approach to decision making that demonstrates good character and common sense. And we can see that through the different things that we've tried. Coffee with council, different types of town hall meetings. Maddie has done, our communications manager has done a very good job working with the budget department and the various other departments to try and get our information out. And we're hearing a lot of positive feedback in that manner. We believe in the value of fiscal sustainability, and we'll live within our means by using our resources wisely. We are prudent with public money and strive to be as efficient and as effective as possible in everything we do. We believe in the value of strong relationships, you know, and we don't work in a vacuum, and we really need to collaborate with our partners. And we're committed to making sure those relationships are maintained and strengthened. That includes provincial and federal governments, rural and urban neighbors, and this is all happens through the ICF process, and irrigation districts, water co-ops. So it's quite a lengthy list of the relationships and stakeholders. So this is our planning framework. County Council Strategic Plan drives the development of the corporate business plan and budgets when approved by council. Finance operational plans across the organization. Council is measured through a variety of mechanisms and reported back to council and the public on an ongoing basis. So the strategic plan, out of that will come the corporate business plan, then the operating and capital budgets, department plans, and individual work plans and performance reports. The corporate business plan will have performance measures in it because we need to be able to, as administration, report back to you as council and the public as our stakeholders as well. Are we meeting our targets, and how do we define the targets as well? So there's 5 pillars, and the first is prosperous agricultural community, vibrant and growing economy, outstanding quality of life, effective governance and service delivery, and strong working relationships. We kept some of the symbols from the previous strategic plan because we wanted some continuity between the old plan and the new plan. And the Director of Corporate Service had a good idea to leave these symbols in. We created a new one for the agricultural community because we have just changed the council reports, and to link them in, we're using these symbols. So we wanted to make sure that they carried on through the next 2019 to 2022. So prosperous agricultural community, we're recognized as having a strong agricultural economy, including primary and value-added agriculture business. We've heard that a lot. We need to expand on our agri-food business. We're doing a lot of that with the protein super cluster, and these kind of things are coming along. Obviously, we need the infrastructure to support these businesses, and that's one of the main things that, you know, you do realize we have an application in right now. We're not sure where that's at with the election, so we have to follow up now when the new minister of the cabinet gets in. We want to preserve highly productive agriculture land through land use and land development policies. We had a lot of discussion through the strategic planning process and here at the council table about agriculture land and when people want to do businesses. So we have to find the balance between preserving agriculture land and bringing in more industrial commercial business, and it's a very challenging decision. Invest in high quality haul routes. I think we're well on the way to that. We have, I think, 138 already. So we're using 2019 to review the haul routes, and then we'll bring a report back to council before the budget for 2020. Create an agribusiness corridor development strategy to encourage the development of value-added industrial agriculture businesses within the county. So the performance measures and how they've laid it out is that we've got performance measures from the community, from council, and from administration under the corporate measures. So the community measure would be annual growth in gross farm receipts. Council measure would be farmer and producer satisfaction with county support programs as measured in the annual budget survey and throughout the business retention and expansion survey conducted every 4 years. Corporate measure would be the number of value-added agriculture businesses located in the county. So the second pillar, vibrant and economy. Lethbridge County has a diverse economy that leverages its strengths in agriculture, renewable energy, and transportation sector. Strategies: approve a detailed 5-year corporate economic development strategy that addresses agribusiness, general commercial industrial development, and renewable energy opportunities. I've had a lot of conversations with the manager of community service and the economic development officer on this. Once this is approved and the corporate plan gets started, we will also be doing an economic development strategy so that we can have a better idea. Economic development is very hard to measure because a lot of the times that you're putting out feelers for things, you don't know if they're going to come to fruition. So having an actual economic development strategy will give us some guidelines on what we're expecting the economic development officer to work on, and it will also have some input from him as well as the community services director. But then we will be able to see if we are meeting our targets through that economic development plan. We're also encouraging the development of value-added agricultural opportunities, approve an industrial land development strategy that addresses servicing including water, wastewater, and broadband. And we all know that these are very crucial areas that we need to deal with. The broadband is, coming along. There will be a report coming to the next council meeting. The water and wastewater, as I said, we did have an application before the provincial and federal government, and we just need to be updated on that. We've also had good success with the surrounding the urbans inside the county and the city of recent, through the ICF discussions. There is some openness and receptivity to working together on joint industrial plans. So that's another possibility that we could look at. If we don't have the services, perhaps somebody does have the services, but we have the land. So there's a lot of regional partnerships that could happen, that could be another way to go without the services being provided. So the performance measures are, the community measure is growth in target sectors as identified in the economic development strategy. Council measure, number of initiatives launched under the county economic development strategy. And the corporate measure, maintain high business confidence rating as measured in the business retention and expansion survey completed every 4 years. Given that you guys are kind of in the middle of your council term, what we would like to do through the economic development strategy is have more of a do the business retention strategy kind of halfway through the last term so that we know if we've met our targets. Outstanding quality of life is the third pillar. Lethbridge County residents experience a high quality of life by living in a vibrant and safe rural community that provides them with access to programs and services that meet their needs. And that's always the biggest challenge as council. You always have to figure out, we only have so much money, and how do we provide the services that we want for our residents. So it's always very challenging, and we as staff are always looking for different ways and efficiencies and also increased revenue. So strategies are approve public safety and emergency service framework to address policing, fire, and emergency response services. Approve ICF's IDPs with neighboring municipalities to ensure high-quality programs, services, and infrastructure are in place to meet the needs of residents and ensure safe, potable water is available to residents. Approve a residential growth management study. Now this last one, number 4, is on the docket for 2019, as you remember from our planning workshop with the senior planner. The ICFs and the IDPs, there's always been this conversation back and forth whether if the provincial government changed, would they get rid of the ICFs or would they keep them? So we don't know that yet, it's too early. What I think, and I've been trying to communicate to our partners, is if they make them voluntary instead of mandatory, I think we're so far down the process now that I think we should continue on with that, because what they're giving us the ability to do is to have these conversations with the urbans and with our neighbors and with the city of Lethbridge. So I think regardless of whether it's legislated or not legislated, I think the process has been effective, and I think it's given us a good opportunity to talk about our shared services, our boundary roads, these kind of things through that process. So I think it's been effective. Community measures, community satisfaction with municipal services and infrastructure as measured through annual budget survey. Council measures, satisfaction level with ICF, emergency and fire services, and level of service provided to residents. Corporate measures is all ICFs and IDPs are completed in a manner that address fire and emergency services to the satisfaction of the residents. Effective governance and service delivery. The outcome, Lethbridge County is recognized by citizens for having an effective council that makes decisions in the best interest of citizens and delivers services effectively through a strong, empowered administration. Strategies are to continue an operational efficiency and effectiveness review to identify opportunities to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of county services. Now, this is well underway. We've been doing that for the past 10 or 11 months, and we're always every day looking for efficiencies. We're doing a review of the fees and charges. We do that every year, but I'm working with staff to do a more thorough review, to go out to the comparable markets and to check and make sure that our rates are fair and that we don't have any fees or charges that are under. So, and to make sure that we're covering all the areas we need to. We need to continue to maintain high levels of community engagement and effective communications, and I think the feedback that we're getting from the community is that that has been effective, and they are feeling like they're getting more information with the newsletter and the social media that we're putting out as well. Establish a financial policy framework that ensures the long-term sustainability of the county. And we've changed the budgeting, so I think now it's like a 3-year budgeting, 5-year budgeting process.
5-year capital.
5-year capital. But we will work on internally on that as well. Develop performance measures and report on progress through budget, corporate plan, and annual reporting processes. And the performance measures are the community measures, our satisfaction with community engagement and communications as measured through the annual budget survey. Now, I think last year was the first year we did the survey. We're going to try and change a little bit for next year to see if we can get more engagement, but we did have quite a few responders for the first time out, so we're hoping to be more successful next year. Council measure is the number of business units reviewed for efficiency and effectiveness, and the corporate measure is year-over-year improvement against goals outlined in the operational efficiency and effectiveness. So the strong working relationships, as I mentioned earlier, the county is recognized as a trusted and effective partner across the region in the delivery of effective programs and services. The county has strong working relationships with the provincial, federal governments, neighboring municipalities, First Nations, the irrigation districts, the water co-ops, regional service providers, and research and training institutions. Strategies are to approve an intergovernmental relations strategy that addresses municipal, provincial, federal, and First Nations relations. Improve the effectiveness of water services through the renewed relation with the irrigation and the water co-op. That was one of the goals and objectives that council really wanted to see. We've already held a meeting in May with the irrigation districts. We have working groups too as well. And we have another meeting upcoming in May. So I think that putting forward that resolution in the fall at Foothills Little Bow led to the irrigation piece, and also is getting us further down the line. This issue is something that needs time, and we need to meet more to get it solved, but we're hoping that the end result is that we can work more cooperatively with the irrigation districts on infrastructure so that the cost isn't just borne by the county. Performance measures are community measures, citizen satisfaction with the water service, council measure, number of council interactions with partners. Corporate measures, quality of relationships with key partners. So community accountability, the Lethbridge County Strategic Plan is a living document. County Council and Administration will review and report report on the progress that is being made relative to its implementation on an ongoing basis, and will report to the committee through annual reports. Now, it says annual reports in here, but I'm not sure if it would be more effective biannually or quarterly, and it depends on what council would like to see, how often. It does involve a little bit of work assembling it, but it's also a good tracking mechanism for us as well, too. So, public reporting on the performance measures identified in this plan is intended to promote community accountability. Performance measures will enable council, administration, and the public to monitor the progress that's being made within each of council's 5 focus areas.
Just regarding the annual reporting, currently we were in our annual financial report, we were putting in the update on the strategic plan, so we can continue to do something like that through the annual reporting process.
So I did see that they changed our vision statement considerably.
Yeah, and you know what, through you, Chair, I'm sorry, I'm tired. But that needs to be corrected, the visioning document, and we did talk about it at SMT, but it should go back to what we agreed to at Tracy has the exact wording there.
Yes, the wording that was in the municipal development plan is what we'd agreed on at the meeting. It's similar. We went that way faster than I thought you were going to.
Sorry. We can move on and we can get back to you, or you want to do your turn.
I should have it right here.
Okay. Tracy's just Googling that, but you are right, this one is not correct.
Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just an interesting point, and while you were talking, I actually just got an email here, and I think you touched on the protein clusters and how the opportunity that is there. They just announced their first $40 million to be invested in the first round of eligible projects. So yeah, Protein Industries Canada will match up to 15% of industry investments on all eligible expenses for successful projects. So I think you nailed it on the head. I think there's a huge opportunity not only for the producers in the county, but also hopefully we're able to our economic development officer and administration and council can hopefully really try and attract something along those lines. I think that's a great opportunity.
Yes, just to speak to that too, they are coming to Lethbridge County on the 9th and 10th, and there will be a tour. So we'll have the opportunity for council to meet with the representatives from the protein supercluster. And it was very helpful. Rafiki, myself, and the EDO went to the first conference they ever had in Winnipeg. It gave us an opportunity to meet the CEO and develop a bit of a relationship with him. So it'll be good for him to come and see the county, and at this time of year as well too, because everything will be starting. Everybody's working in season and whatnot.
And I think we should add too that the city also got invitation in there, and that they are going to be present there too, because they wanted to meet with the economic development part of the city.
Yes, thanks for stressing that. Councilor Vanderveen, our economic development officer and Lethbridge economic development officer are working together to put this tour on, so it'll be a joint collaboration between the city and the county.
I have it.
You got it? Okay.
So our notes from that strat planning meeting were that we were going to adopt the same vision statement that was in our municipal development plan, being that Lethbridge County will endeavor to pursue balanced and sustainable growth in conjunction with an ever-improving quality of life within one of Canada's greatest agricultural communities.
That's, yeah, so that'll be corrected.
So the one other thing you kind of touched on a bit was how you were going to define and rate economic development. So, but the one major hurdle that we have there is my mind is on, the page with the vibrant and growing economy. No. Sorry?
I just put it back.
Oh, okay. And that's the water and wastewater. That's our largest stumbling block. Also, I'm not sure how you get beyond that one without kind of looking forward to investing a great deal of money to attract somebody to come. Like, we're kind of handcuffed in a way.
I would agree with that statement, and one of the things, we can't only rely on this one application that's in, we can't, because, I mean, the likelihood that we'll get the application to complete it on the Highway 3 is iffy, because it's also provincial and federal. That's just one aspect we need to be doing. I think through the ICF process, we need to work with our partners, the city, the urbans, and look at the other options, joint ventures. So we can't just be worrying, we can't just go, okay, we're done with the water and wastewater, because it is a huge piece. I remember through the strategic planning sessions that, I think it was you, Reed Hickey, that brought up the city and the wastewater. There is some openness now at the city to talk about availability of water, and they seem more open to that. Next week, we're holding a joint meeting with the city. It's our third ICF meeting. Water is a big piece of that, as well as boundary roads. So we need to cover all those avenues, and you're right, it's a stumbling block. How do we get over that? We invest in infrastructure, we partner with other groups, so we have to try all these avenues. We can't just say, okay, we put in an application and that's it. We have to make sure we're covering all our bases, because that is the biggest stumbling block we have right now.
So when you talk about boundary roads, but how do you define that, or what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, the city's right in the middle of the county, and the boundary roads around there.
Yeah.
We are going to, next week, we have a terms of reference for the ICF with the city. They've already got that. What we're going to be doing next week is we're gonna be setting up in the 5 areas of the ICF. We're gonna be setting up working groups, and the working groups have we've already decided internally what our big areas are. And the working groups with, like, obviously the municipal services director will be in the working group for the roads and the infrastructure, as long as with the same position across the street. And we have outlined where we have issues and things that we need to work on. So that'll get through the ICF process. But I think there's been so much development in the city industrial spot. There's a lot of problems in the areas around, and it's just gonna get worse. We've seen through the Cavendish and all the construction going through, what it's doing to those roads. So we have to make sure that that's a priority through these working groups through the ICF.
And then one last question is, the next page over, outstanding quality of life. Ensure safe potable water is available to residents. We're not doing that great a job on that one, so.
No, we really aren't, and that was again one of council's priorities through your goals and objectives. We've improved our relationship with the water co-ops. Some of them are having issues getting licenses. We've, the municipal services director and I attended their annual general meeting, and we have meetings scheduled in about a week or two again with the board members. We're trying to assist them in their hiccups that they're having with the province, but overall we need to develop a strategy on potable water and getting potable water to the county. Working with the co-ops, how do we proceed next? We need a strategy for that, because you're right, we don't have one now.
So on the other one, might as well move to the next page, since I've got the floor here, I guess. You're talking about effective governance and service delivery. So you say you're getting a lot of input back from residents. So like, wow, a little lost there. What are you getting back? If we really don't know that.
Oh, okay. Just general feedback that we hear, it's sort of anecdotal information. It's not, you know, and whatnot.
I've been at a few public meetings. I can think of the one for the airport master plan, and when I was talking to one of the staff, a couple of residents came up and said they liked what we were doing, the communication piece. So we hear it through the, not through the grapevine, but we hear it through people, and we hear it through the public, not necessarily in a, survey driven, but we do hear it feedback to us, and I've heard it through some of the council members have given me back that information.
Okay, anybody else got any questions? Well,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we also have to look at the development of agriculture and industrial opportunities that we have. And I think with the rejection that we had on the solar energy project that was brought forward here a couple of months ago, I think we have to bring that one forward and have to discuss there which route we're going to be taking on that one. Are we always going to be rejecting these kind of things, or are we going to be making different, say it's, are we going to move ahead with wanting more development of different industries in here, or are we going to be just going to be clear with not on productive land and so forth? Because I think we did say at that time that we were going to revisit that.
For that specific incident, Councillor Vanderveen, through you, Mr. Chair, sorry. It is coming back to council, and we have met internally with Reed myself, the planner, with the development officers, and they will be bringing it back to a future council meeting. I'm just not sure of the exact date, but you are right. We do need to set some priorities and boundaries on preserving agricultural land, and it's a very fine balance, preserving agricultural land and getting in industrial and commercial. So we do have to set some priorities for that.
Joanne, is that covered under the 5-year county economic development strategy? It says it addresses renewable energy opportunities and whatnot.
It will when we do the strategy. That will be a piece that we do through.
Okay.
Absolutely, good point.
any other discussion?
On the strategies, on the strong working relationships and stuff, the county has a strong working relationship with the federal government, neighboring municipalities, First Nations, irrigation. And then for the strategy, you've got to approve an intergovernmental relationship strategy that addresses everything that you said in here. So, so that's coming, or is it?
No, we're going to work on it, if this is approved today.
Okay, and then the water services through renewed relationships and irrigation and water co-ops, well, irrigation, the water co-ops. That needs to be done pretty quick.
I think that strategy is already in progress. So I mentioned before that the municipal service director and myself had already had a lot of meetings. The municipal service director and his staff have also sat in with meetings. I think we're farther down the road than this strategy would really realize. But you are right, it needs to be quick.
And another one that I have is Ken just mentioned here about the government relationships that we have. I know in the past that we've had some professional help with government relationships to get to the door, and with having a new government coming up in the next couple of months, are we willing to look at taking a different approach there, that we can get deeper into the government than we have in the last while?
My opinion is that yes, there's a change in government, but we always need to get to know the different ministries. Once they set cabinet, we will reach out to the different ministers, because as we have a few files before them right now, I personally don't think we need outside help. We just need to be more aggressive in our lobbying.
sure I quite agree with you on that, but, because, I think our previous lobbyist, was able to open doors we never could before. And, that was of huge value to us. It was pretty tough to move forward without them. Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just gonna put some emphasis on down there, because once in a while we reminded down there that we didn't do enough. I think we did a lot down there with that person having us, put us on there available to the thing, and that's something we should be looking at, you know, are we gonna have another person, like that, available to us, you know, to approach the government? But we've been strong, very strong compared to other municipalities in lobbying our politicians up in Edmonton down there for what our needs were. However, this last go around with the NDP, we didn't have much success.
Lobbyist that we had for the last, I
don't remember exactly.
but anyway, it was a long time, and he opened a lot of doors. He was the minister of.
Yeah, you had several.
Yes, and it was a huge, huge advantage for us.
So the other part on that page is, we talked about working relationships with our surrounding municipalities. I guess the one concerning thing to me there is the amount of annexation proposals we got here floating on the air. They don't really seem to be tied to any agreements we had before. They just all of a sudden are coming to light because I'm gonna specifically say Picture Butte, when we paved part of the Factory Drive, we always kind of had an understanding that we're going to explore joint development of an industrial park. And I think that's kind of just slipped away and gone into bye-bye land.
I would agree with that, because my understanding is when I talked to the senior planner, there was, through the IDP process with Picture Butte, there was no mention of annexation at all. And then all of a sudden we got a letter, and you're right, it was the Factory Drive area, and now we're looking at another area. So I think at our meeting about a week ago, with the Urbans and our ICF meeting, we did have a brief conversation about annexation, and we need to do better planning regionally more than, you know, every urban or city wants to annex, because as I'm gonna steal the senior planner's words, we're not a land bank, because we only have so much land and we can't give it up. But I think through these regional agreements and conversations, there's more opportunity for joint ventures. But you're right, that needs to be put in some kind of framework. And I think it will through the ICF process.
That's the emphasis.
Any other questions? Morris, you have one?
Nope, no.
So would we just take some time to review this on our own? And come back at a future date?
Yeah, what you can do is review it and send your comments to me, and if you can get your comments to me, what are we now, the 18th? If you could get them to me by the end of April, then I could, or first week in May, then I can include them in our comments, and I come back on the 16th, and then hopefully I'll have that done, the corporate plan finds done together, so that you can look at both documents.
So we need an motion though, saying something like that, I guess. To review the document, submit comments. I'll do
I'll send you an update to remind you periodically.
Any further discussion? Call for that question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
You want me to stay for invitations?
Sorry?
You want me to stay up here for invitations? L1?
Sure. So we should be on page 80 to 85.
So Reed Hickey has been invited to attend the 2019 University of Lethbridge Convocation Ceremony, scheduled for May 30th and 31st, 2019, at the University of Lethbridge First Choice Savings Center for Sports and Wellness. And this is a yearly event that happens, and the Reed has attended in the past.
I won't be attending this year though.
Oh,
That's it.
oh, right, okay. Is there somebody else available that isn't going to FCM?
I'm going. But only because Lindsay's graduating.
Is there anybody else who wishes to go?
Klaus or Bob, first name?
Sure.
May 30, 31? No, I am.
Oh, you're away. Bob will do it. Bob.
Might as well.
Could we,
So that's good enough, I guess, that motion.
we were designated, yeah.
Bob made it, right? Did you make that motion?
She's there for,
What?
she's
Not
there
there
for
for
a
the
family
family.
event, so
Yeah.
we don't wanna saddle her with county business, even though she's my double dipping. Might wanna.
Okay,
Go on.
we'll send somebody then. To designate.
But if nobody else can make it at the time? Or
Bob-
what was
Bob's
the-
going.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, call for the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Council reports, do you want to do those now?
You don't, can we go back into camp?
We're gonna do that
Right
after.
after this, okay?
Right outside.
So on March 4th, there was the emergency advisory committee meeting. On the 6th, council wage business tax meeting. Council meeting on the 7th, meeting with Rachel Harder on the 13th. That was kind of an interesting one. I think that she has the ability to do perhaps more for us than we probably directed her way. So it would be better to be more into that, I believe. The 17th, the 20th, is at the RMA convention. Well, with everybody else, I think one of the major things I got out of that was that deal for the replacement of the RCMP's old system, Rural Crime Watch. And the 21st, we had a council meeting. 22nd was audit meeting. 25th was planning workshop. 27th was the irrigation workshop. I think that had great value in it, and there was no bickering and argument back and forth. I think you're there and willing to have a listen to what everybody says, and I think there is a chance to move ahead and come out of that with some kind of resolution that everybody can live with. And 28th, I was on my way to that dinner, but got sick on the way to town, so I didn't make that one.
irrigation workshop, is that gonna be continuing monthly or so, or?
May the 10th, isn't it?
May the 10th. May the 10th is the next meeting, and that's the one that, the municipal services director and myself, we are on working groups, so there's gonna be sub-working groups that are founded from that. I'm not sure if it's going to be monthly, but we're kind of making some progress, so we'll see where it goes after next week.
Okay, thank you.
Emergency advisory on, our meeting on the 4th, and, council business tax, 6th, council on the 7th, 18th, 7th, and then that's 17th or 18th.
Yep.
Went to Edmonton, come back at the council meeting. And then on the 25th, there was planning meeting. And then we had the open house at Willow Creek. Yeah, that's got it all.
March 4th, Emergency Advisory Committee meeting. 6th, discussion on council wage and business tax meeting. 7th, council meeting, and the Scenic Drive open house just across the street on the 12th of March. 18th and 20th, spring RMA. 21st, council meeting. 25th, the planning workshop, council luncheon. 25th, Willow Creek, Lethbridge County IDP, open house in Monarch.
March 4th, an emergency advisory committee meeting. March 6th, had a council wages meeting. 7th, council meeting. March 7th and 8th, attended the Pitcher Butte Provincial Hockey banquet and opening ceremonies. Just at the banquet, they had Lanny McDonald as a guest speaker, and he had a great message to the kids. It was a very good event. March 18th to 20th, attended the Rural Municipalities of Alberta Conference. 21st, had a council meeting. 25th, planning workshop, and March 25th, attended the Willow Creek, Lethbridge County IDP open house in Monarch.
March 1st, highway training meeting, March 6th, council wages, business tax meeting, March 7th, council meeting, March 18th to 20th, rural municipalities of Alberta conference, and we come back on 21st for a council meeting, 25th planning workshop, and 25th, the council Andy, the Willow Creek open house, and then the South Grove quarterly board meeting on the 28th.
March 6th, council with business tax meeting, March 7th, council meeting, March the 18th, 20 to the RMA in Edmonton, March the 21st, council meeting, March the 25th, planning workshop and council luncheon meeting, March the 25th, Willow Creek IDP meeting, and not even open house, I guess. March 27th, all for the irrigation district association meeting, and that was good.
You can breathe now, Morris.
March 4th, Lethbridge Regional Waste Committee meeting. And March 6th, council wages and business tax. 7th was the council meeting, 18th and 20th RMA. 21st, council meeting, and 22nd, SEWA, and 25, planning workshop, and council luncheon meeting, and I had a meeting with the Shaughnessy Community Association. And I also had a few people that had some issue, and I referred to the CEO and their technical meeting.
Any discussion, Morris?
I'll move that council report.
Any discussion? back into camera.